The soft morning sunlight shines through the old curtains in Clara's small house. He got out of bed slowly. His back hurt, but he was used to the pain. He had to stay strong for his wife, Emma, who was still sleeping in the next room. The kitchen was small but warm and cozy. The walls had old pictures. His wedding day, a trip to the beach from a long time ago, and a family Christmas gathering. Clara stopped and looked at them for a moment. Where did those happy times go, he thought. He touched the wedding ring on his finger and sighed. After making a simple cup of coffee, he went to Emma's room. She was sitting on the bed, staring at nothing. Emma had Alzheimer's, a sickness that made her forget things. She had lost so many memories, but sometimes, Clara could still see the woman he loved in her eyes. He knelt beside her, holding her hand gently. "Good morning, my love," he said softly. Emma didn't say anything, but she gave him a small smile. For Clara, that was enough. He helped her get up and took her to the bathroom, then brought her to the kitchen table. While she sat down, he started sorting her medicine. Each pill reminded him of the struggles they faced every single day. "Today is going to be a good day, sweetheart," he whispered, as if trying to believe it himself. In the living room, a pile of bills sat on the table. Most of them were marked overdue. Clara picked one up and looked at the numbers with tired eyes. "Maybe I can work a few extra hours at the market today," he murmured, trying to find some hope. Before leaving, he went back to Emma's room to say goodbye. She was holding their wedding photo, something she did almost every day. Clara gently ran his fingers through her soft gray hair. "I'll be back soon, my love," he said. Emma didn't answer, but her eyes had a small spark of recognition. As Clara stepped outside, the sky was turning bright with the sunrise. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of another hard day ahead. With a tired voice, he whispered, "Give me strength for one more day." He had no idea that today was going to change his life forever. When Clara arrived at the market, the parking lot was already full of cars and busy shoppers. He climbed out of his old car, his knees hurting as he stepped down. He grabbed his faded work vest from the back seat. It was old and worn out, but he put it on with quiet dignity as he did every day. "Another day," he muttered to himself. He walked toward the shopping carts, which were scattered all over the place. The morning air was still cool, but he knew the sun would soon make everything hot and exhausting. Clara began his work, carefully pushing the carts into neat rows. His knee hurt, but he didn't stop. He had to finish quickly so the manager wouldn't get mad. A young man rushed past him, pushing a cart carelessly. The cart almost hit Clara. "Sorry, sir," the young man called as he hurried into the store. Clara repeated the words softly and smiled sadly. He knew he was getting older, but every time someone called him sir, it reminded him of how fast time was passing. Just then, a loud voice interrupted his thoughts. "Clara, what's going on? Why are these carts still everywhere?" It was the manager, a man in his 30s who always seemed impatient. Clara stood up straight, ignoring the pain in his knee. "I'm getting everything in order, sir. Just need a few more minutes." The manager crossed his arms and frowned. "A few more minutes? That's not an excuse. If you were faster, we wouldn't need two people doing your job." Clara pressed his lips together. He wanted to say something, but he knew arguing wouldn't help. So he just turned back to his work, pushing the carts with more strength than before. The metal wheels rattled loudly. A few minutes later, as he was lining up the last row, one of the carts suddenly rolled away. It almost hit a parked car. Clara moved as fast as he could and caught it just in time, but the effort sent sharp pain through his knee. He leaned on the cart, breathing heavily. "Just one more day, Clara," he whispered to himself. "Just one more day." He looked up at the sky and quietly prayed. "Help me, God. Just help me get through this day." He didn't ask for miracles. He didn't ask for big changes. Just the strength to keep going. What he didn't know was that someone was watching him. Across the parking lot, a man on a motorcycle had parked his bike and taken off his helmet. He was watching Clara closely. His eyes followed every move, how he struggled with the carts, how the manager talked to him, how tired he looked. The man adjusted his sunglasses, thinking deeply about what he had just seen. Clara had no idea that this stranger was about to become an important part of his story. The deep hum of a motorcycle filled the parking lot. It was a classic bike, strong and powerful, but the sound wasn't too loud. It was almost as if the bike was announcing its arrival gently. The man riding it wore a black jacket and sunglasses. He parked in a quiet corner, away from the crowd. Keanu Reeves stepped off his bike, removed his helmet, and ran his fingers through his hair. He looked around the parking lot, taking in every detail. He wasn't here to buy groceries. That was clear. Something had drawn him to this place. That's when he saw Clara, hunched over a row of carts, struggling to push them into place. Keanu noticed how tired Clara looked. He saw how Clara grabbed his knee in pain and how the manager ignored him. Keanu frowned. Something inside him told him he had to do something. Without a word, Keanu walked toward Clara. When he was close enough, he spoke in a calm but firm voice. "Need a hand with that?" Clara was startled. He looked up and saw the man standing there. Something about him looked familiar, but Clara couldn't quite remember where he had seen him before. No, don't worry about it, sir. I've got it under control," Clara said with a tired smile. Keanu stepped closer and looked at the scattered carts. "I insist." He smiled. Before Clara could say no, Keanu was already helping him push the carts into place. "Look, I appreciate it, but this is my job," Clara said, trying to take back control. Keanu paused and looked at Clara. "Sometimes even the strongest need a helping hand." "Don't worry, I just want to help." Clara hesitated, but something about Keanu's voice made him feel calm. He sighed and said, "Well, if you really want to help, start with those over there." He pointed to another messy row of carts. Keanu nodded like he had just accepted an important mission. Then he got to work. Keanu started talking to Clara as they worked. "How long have you been doing this job?" he asked. His voice was warm and curious, like he really wanted to know. Clara sighed but gave a small smile. "A few years now," he said. "Ever since my wife got sick, I had to find a way to make money. The hospital visits, the medicine, everything costs a lot. It's not easy, but it's what I have to do." Keanu didn't interrupt. He listened carefully, pushing the carts beside Clara. His face showed kindness, like he truly cared. Clara noticed this, and for some reason it made him feel safe. He decided to keep talking. "My wife, Emma," Clara said softly. "She used to be so full of life. We had so many good times together. But then, she got sick. Alzheimer's." Keanu tilted his head. "Alzheimer's?" he asked gently. Clara nodded. "It's a disease. It makes people forget things. At first, it was small things like forgetting where she put her keys. But then she started forgetting bigger things. She forgot our home address. She forgot our wedding day. And now, some days she doesn't even remember me." Keanu's eyes softened. He didn't know what to say. He could only imagine how hard that must be. After working for a while, Keanu wiped his forehead. "Let's take a break," he said. "Come on, my treat." Clara hesitated. "Oh, I don't know." "You've been working hard," Keanu said with a friendly smile. "And I could use a coffee. Just come with me." Clara thought about it. His feet were sore and he was thirsty. "All right," he finally said. They walked to a small cafe inside the market. Keanu bought 2 cups of coffee, then they sat on a bench outside watching the cars in the parking lot. Keanu took a sip. "Have you ever thought about retiring?" he asked. Clara gave a tired laugh. "Retiring? With what money?" He shook his head. "I sold almost everything I had to pay for Emma's treatment. What I have left barely covers the bills." Keanu was quiet for a moment. He stared at his coffee cup, deep in thought. Then he looked at Clara. "You've done so much for her. That's really admirable." Clara shrugged. "That's what love is. When you love someone, you don't give up. No matter what happens, you keep fighting." Keanu thought about those words. Clara wasn't complaining. He wasn't asking for pity. He was just telling the truth. After finishing their coffee, they walked back to the parking lot to keep working. But Keanu still had more questions. "You said your wife is strong," he said. "How is she doing now?" Clara sighed. "Some days are okay. Some days are really bad. Today is neutral, I guess." Keanu nodded. "And the medicine? You said you sold a lot of things. How do you keep paying for it?" Clara stopped pushing the carts and leaned on one. He looked up at the sky like he was searching for strength. "I sold our house," he finally said. "The home we built together. It had so many memories. But we needed money for her treatments, so I had to let it go." Keanu's heart ached hearing that. Clara continued. "Then I sold our furniture. Our car. Pretty much everything. I only kept the things she really needed." Keanu stayed silent, listening. "This job doesn't pay much," Clara went on. "But it's enough to get by. The real problem is the medicine. It's expensive. But I have to buy it. I don't have a choice." Keanu looked at him, concerned. "And you?" he asked softly. "How are you taking care of yourself?" Clara gave a tired smile. "There's no time or money for that," he admitted. "But it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is that Emma has what she needs." Keanu's hands tightened around the cart he was holding. He could feel the weight of Clara's words. "Have you asked anyone for help?" Keanu asked. "Friends? Family?" Clara shook his head. "Other people have their own problems," he said. I can't ask them to carry mine too. And honestly, I think my pride gets in the way. I've always believed that a man should solve his own problems. Keanu gave a small, understanding smile. A lot of people feel that way, he said. But sometimes asking for help is the bravest thing you can do. Keanu reached out and placed a hand on Clara's shoulder just for a moment. It was a small thing, but it meant a lot. You're a good man, Clara, Keanu said. And even if you don't see it, the world needs people like you. You deserve a little rest. Clara didn't know how to respond. It had been a long time since someone had said something like that to him. I've already made my choice, Clara said after a pause. Emma comes first. She always will. Keanu nodded, respecting his decision. But in his eyes, Clara could see that he was thinking. As the day went on, Keanu watched Clara closely. He saw how hard he worked, how he ignored his aching back, how he stayed calm even when the manager was rude. Through it all, Clara never complained. He carried himself with quiet dignity. When Clara's shift ended, Keanu shook his hand. I hope we meet again, he said. Clara smiled faintly. If you keep coming here, I'm sure we will. Keanu chuckled. You can count on that. As Clara walked away, Keanu stayed behind for a moment. He deserves more than this, Keanu murmured to himself. That night, Keanu couldn't stop thinking about Clara. He sat at home, remembering everything Clara had said. He knew he couldn't fix everything, but he could at least make things a little easier. The next morning, Keanu went back to the market. This time he had a plan. He walked into the manager's office. The manager looked up, surprised. Can I help you? Keanu nodded. Yes. I want to talk about Clara. The manager frowned. Clara? What about him? Keanu took a deep breath. He works hard every day, he said. Even though his life is very difficult. I want to help him. The manager looked confused. Why do you want to help him? Keanu pulled out a check and placed it on the desk. I want to pay Clara's salary for the next few months, he said. And I want him to have some time off to rest. But I need your help. The manager's eyes widened. That's very generous. But Clara probably won't accept it. He's a proud man. Keanu smiled slightly. I know, he said. That's why this has to be a secret. He can't know the money is from me. Just tell him it's a special bonus from the market or something. Can you do that? The manager hesitated, then slowly nodded. I think we can make that work. Keanu smiled, feeling a sense of relief. Clara had no idea, but soon life was going to get just a little easier. And Keanu knew he would keep looking out for him. Because no one should have to carry that kind of burden alone. Keanu walked up to the customer service desk and asked for a list of nearby pharmacies. He wanted to make sure that Emma's treatment and medications would be covered. After a quick call to the pharmacy where Clara picked up her medicine, Keanu confirmed the details and arranged for payments to be made for the next several months, ensuring they wouldn't have to worry about it. Before leaving the store, Keanu decided to stop by a nearby cafe to grab some coffee. He bought 2 drinks and walked back to the parking lot. As he approached his motorcycle, he noticed Clara in the distance, organizing the last row of shopping carts before his break. Keanu called out, "Coffee?" as he handed one of the cups to Clara. Clara accepted the drink with a tired smile. You're a good man, you know that? Keanu laughed and shrugged. I just like coffee. The two of them sat down on the same bench where they had talked the day before. Keanu looked at Clara with respect and admiration. You're an inspiring person, Clara, Keanu said quietly. Clara shook his head, looking down. I just do what needs to be done. Keanu smiled. That's what makes you special. Most people would have given up, but you didn't. Clara shrugged, looking thoughtful. Loving someone means being there for them no matter what. Keanu was quiet for a moment before speaking again. I know you don't like to accept help easily. But if someone showed up and wanted to do something nice for you, what would you say? Clara frowned, Ciel Claire uncomfortable with the question. I'd say they should help someone who really needs it. Keanu smiled softly. You are that person, Clara. But never mind, let's talk about something else. At the end of Clara's shift, the manager called him into the office. Clara was surprised to be asked to come in. He walked in hesitantly, wondering what it was about. The manager handed him an envelope, avoiding direct eye contact. Here, this is for you, the manager said. Clara looked down at the envelope, unsure of what it was. What is it? He asked. It's a special bonus, the manager replied, still not looking directly at Clara. You deserve it. Clara slowly opened the envelope and pulled out the contents. Inside was an amount of money large enough to cover all of Clara's bills for the next few months. His hands shook as he looked at the amount, and his eyes began to fill with tears. I don't know what to say, Clara whispered, his voice cracking. The manager smiled, trying to hide his own emotions. Just enjoy it. You've earned it. When Clara returned home that evening, he held the envelope like it was a precious treasure. He walked inside and saw Emma sitting with their wedding photo in her hands, just like she often did. He knelt down beside her, took her hand gently and said, his voice trembling, "My love, we have a chance. Everything is going to be okay now." Emma looked up at him, and for a brief moment, a real smile crossed her face. It was a smile that Clara had not seen in a long time. He felt as though he had received the greatest gift of all at that moment. From a distance, Keanu sat on his motorcycle, watching the small house where Clara and Emma lived. He revved the engine softly and slowly began to ride down the road, disappearing from view. His heart felt lighter, but he knew deep down that what he had done was more than just a simple good deed. It was the beginning of something bigger. The next morning, Clara woke up clairé as he always did, but today felt different. He felt lighter, as if some weight had been lifted from his shoulders. He walked to the living room table, sat down, and opened the envelope again. He stared at the money inside and the simple note that was written in neat, elegant handwriting. Clara read the message over and over, his heart swelling. He didn't know who had sent this gift, but the words meant so much to him. For the first time in years, he felt like someone truly cared about him and Emma. After breakfast, Clara went over to Emma, who was sitting in her favorite chair with their wedding photo still in her hands. He knelt beside her, gently holding her hands in his. "Emma," he said softly, "we have good news. Someone, maybe an angel, has helped us. For now, our financial troubles are over. You'll keep getting the best care." Clara wasn't sure how Emma would react. He expected her usual silence or at best an empty smile. But to his surprise, Emma slowly looked up at him. There was a clarity in her eyes, a spark that he hadn't seen in years. "Clara," she whispered, her voice soft but full of emotion. Clara's heart raced. "Emma, you're awake?" She smiled, the same warm smile that had filled Clara's heart on their wedding day. "I feel like I'm waking up from a long, confusing dream. You're here. It's you." Tears filled Clara's eyes as he gently cupped her face in his hands, as though trying to confirm that this moment was real. "Yes, it's me," Clara said quietly. "I've always been here, Emma." Emma looked around the room as if she was seeing it for the first time in years. "Our house. It's different, but it's still ours, right?" Clara nodded, his throat tight with emotion. "Yes, my love. It's still ours." Emma smiled softly, her fingers touching the wedding photo in her lap. "I remember this day. Our wedding. It was so beautiful. It was the happiest day of my life," Clara replied, his voice cracking with love. Emma looked at him with a twinkle in her eyes. "Today can be another beautiful day. Clara, dance with me." Clara was speechless for a moment, unsure of what to do. But then a smile broke across his face. He stood up, offering her his hand. Emma, though moving slowly, took his hand and stood with him. Clara gently led her to the center of the room and began humming the song that had played at their wedding. Emma smiled as they began to dance slowly. For those few minutes, it felt like time stopped. They were back in the ballroom, spinning and twirling as they had all those years ago. "I missed you," Emma whispered, looking up at Clara. "I never left," Clara whispered back, holding her close, afraid this moment might slip away. That day felt magical. Emma remained clear and lucid. She laughed, she talked with Clara about their past and even helped in the kitchen. It was like the old Emma was back. They shared stories and Clara felt like he had been given the greatest gift of all. That evening, as Emma rested in her chair, she looked at Clara and said, "Thank you for never giving up on me. I love you." Clara held her hand, tears in his eyes. "I love you, Emma. Always." Meanwhile, Keanu was riding down the road, heading to another place, but his thoughts lingered on Clara and Emma. He knew his actions had made a difference, but he also understood that the true impact came from Clara's love and determination. He stopped his motorcycle on a quiet, empty road, took off his helmet and stared at the horizon. A slight smile crossed his face as he thought to himself, sometimes the smallest gestures can have the biggest impact. Keanu didn't need recognition or thanks from Clara. He knew true kindness didn't expect anything in return. In the days that followed, Emma's clarity began to fade again, like a candle slowly dimming. But Clara never forgot that day. It remained in his heart as a treasure, a moment of pure love and hope that he would hold on to forever. Whenever life became hard again, Clara remembered their dance, Emma's smile, and the hope that had come into their lives. He continued his daily routine with renewed strength, knowing that love and kindness could overcome any hardship. As the sun began to set one evening, Clara sat on the porch with Emma, holding her hand. He looked up at the sky and whispered, "Thank you, whoever you are. You saved more than our lives. You gave us hope." Far away, Keanu sped up his motorcycle, the wind rushing through his hair. He didn't need to look back to know he had done the right thing. Because sometimes the quietest acts of kindness leave the deepest marks. If you enjoyed this story, share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories filled with adventure, mystery, and excitement. Your support means the world, and it helps keep these stories coming. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.